I think that once the migration was seen to be stopping on the border with Mexico, people then started focusing on other issues. And I think where the president has lost the plot here has been the overzealousness with which he's dispatched ICE officers into cities, into businesses, even into classrooms.
The Trump administration has halted all asylum decisions following the shooting of two National Guard soldiers in Washington, D.C., which officials have accused an Afghan national for perpetrating. The decision came hours after the US president pledged to permanently pause migration from the so-called third world countries. Now, this week, the Trump administration also told American diplomats in the UK, Europe, Australia, New Zealand and Canada to collect data on crimes committed by migrants. Michael B. Reiss is served in 5 US administrations, including ambassador to the Northern Ireland peace process for President George W. Bush, and is now a distinguished fellow at the RUSI think tank and joins us now. Mitchell, thank you so much for giving us your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
What do you make of this flurry of decisions on migration?
Well, the migration cable, as it's called, was sent out by the State Department on November 20th. So it actually predates the tragic shooting of the two National Guards men in Washington. But it's all, I think, of a same piece, which is a large concern by the president and his administration about immigration in general, not just in the United States, but to countries of our allies and globally as well.
It is unusual, do you not think? For example, a memo sent to diplomats said that the UK was singled out as an egregious example for its alleged failure to curb migration and its supposed tolerance of the so-called organised rape gangs. I'm quoting from the memo here. Do you think it's fair that the UK has been singled out, in the administration's words, and letting the British people down on issues of immigration?
Well, I don't think fairness has much to do with this. The migration cable is an odd one for a number of reasons. First of all, these are national sovereignty issues. These are the internal domestic affairs of our friends and allies around the world. And so it's really an interesting act of interference in a way to start lecturing others about how they ought to conduct their business. It also talks about migration, but doesn't talk about asylum as a separate category, both sort of morally and under international law. There are other variety of sort of curiosities about it, the number of countries, the limited number of countries that it went to, those countries that it didn't include, and its emphasis on Muslim extremism, which I think was really the main focus of the effort here.
What do you think is the political thinking behind this memo? Because as you said, it's been specifically targeted to some countries, others have been left out. What do you think the Trump administration are trying to achieve?
Well, I think that there's a not so hidden agenda. Let's just admit right off the top that there are issues based with legal and illegal migration around the world that countries are struggling to handle. So let's put that aside for a second. So what I think the Trump administration is also doing here is taking a shot at the European Union bureaucracy, which they see as overreaching and overregulating the European countries. There was a mention also of the Digital Markets Act and the AI Act, which the Trump administration opposes as an example of Brussels overreaching. But I also think that it's clearly a message to the domestic audience in the United States, at least as much as the foreign governments. And it's best seen, I believe, as a piece of Vice President Vance's speech earlier this year at the Munich Security Conference, where he lectured the Europeans about the risk of losing their culture unless they were able to limit migration and assimilate those who came within their borders.
It's fair to say that Donald Trump has been quite successful with the immigration issue in the US itself. It's one of the issues that he was polling quite well in. I am now looking at the Silver Bulletin, Nate Silver's website, on immigration. That now has fallen to the approval for the way the Trump administration is handling immigration has fallen to minus 7.2. So more people disapprove of the way immigration has been handled within the US. Is Trump winning the discussion on immigration, if you like, domestically? Because it feels like he's having a bit of a tough time, and perhaps that's why he's sort of taking that focus outside of the US.
Well, I think that's a good point, and it's difficult at any snapshot to really give a true picture of what's happening. The United States has over 330 million people. It's a pretty complicated political society. I think that once the migration was seen to be stopping on the border with Mexico, people then started focusing on other issues. And I think where the president has lost the plot here has been the overzealousness with which he's dispatched ICE officers into cities, into businesses, even into classrooms, in order to seize people who were illegally in the United States. I think there's a great deal of support across the United States for getting those people in the U.S. illegally who have committed violent crimes in the past or perhaps continue to engage in criminality, but not your friendly folk, your friendly neighbor down the street who appears by all rights to be a good citizen, pays his taxes, sends his kids to school. That's not what the Americans signed up for. They signed up for getting rid of the criminals. And I think there's been a bit of an overreach by the administration.
Mitchell, I just wanted to get your thoughts on a Trump truth, I think is what it's called, when he posts on his Truth Social. This came out to just under an hour ago. He said, to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers and human traffickers, please consider, now he switches to capitals, the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. It switches back to lowercase. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So the president has just basically shut down Venezuelan airspace.
Well, it's just odd that the world we're living in where that decision's made on social media. But that aside, I think what the president's been doing, and he's been doing it for some time now, is to try to ramp up the pressure on the Venezuelan leader, Maduro. The two of them apparently reportedly talked by phone with each other directly in the last few days. There's been reports of Maduro having an exit strategy where he would go to live in a different country. Clearly, the administration is trying to remove him and trying to change the regime in Venezuela. So I think this is of a larger piece here.
Do you think they'll succeed?
I think they will succeed. I don't think it's going to be as easy or be as quick as they would like. But I do think that there are a variety of sticks and carrots that the administration and other Latin American countries can bring to bear on Venezuela. The situation in Venezuela is not good. The real question is not whether he leaves or not, in my mind. The question is what comes next? And is this going to be an improvement, or are we just going to see a descent into chaos and disorder where everybody's going to try to fend for themselves in Venezuela? So again, planning this through, if you're going to do this, making sure that you do have a plan for the day after is crucial.
Is this popular with Trump's base? Because part of it, and we saw it with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has announced that she's leaving Congress in January, this idea that one of the criticisms she leveled at the president, one of many, was this idea of getting involved in foreign policy. There was that America first, some called it isolationist, but definitely present in Trump's first administration. And we thought we'd see a continuation, that America would be less involved in issues, in global issues like that. Does it surprise you that the president has actually switched his policies on that and getting very much involved in foreign issues?
Well, I think that foreign policy for every president is an attractive area to play because he has a lot more authority and a lot more scope for action in foreign policy often than he does in domestic policy, where the founding fathers created a set of checks and balances that, traditionally have restrained the president. I think with Venezuela, he sees it as an outgrowth of the immigration crisis. At least that's how he's trying to frame it. Also, the war on drugs. You have a Secretary of State, I think, who cares deeply about the issue. But the broader point is that the president now has intervened in Venezuela, but he also bailed out Argentina to the tune of $20 billion. And that also got some on the MAGA right a little upset. So the president, I think, is hard to pin down. He's hard to categorize. And as he said once, make America great is whatever I say it is. And I think that's going to be the guidepost for him going forward.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, yeah, anything goes. Mitchell, thank you so much. A real pleasure to speak to you. Mitchell B. Reiss there, a diplomat who worked for 5 US administrations, is now a distinguished fellow at the RUSI think tank.